This is Joe Goldberg, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
Just a couple of spies talking on the show. No big deal. You write a lot. I write a little bit. And I think it's neat that we get a chance to do this. You know, the SEALs have done a great job of turning their profession into some other kinds of brands, notably writers. Jack Carr probably being the most obvious successful. But just in general, these guys put a trident on whatever their product is, be it coffee, T-shirts, books. And man, they're great at it. We are kind of catching up on our field. CIA definitely has a brand, and that's where you come from. But Army spies, but we're terrible at this. We don't have a badge. We don't have a tab. We don't have a pin. We are overly secretive for what it is that we do. You know, I mean, there's a difference between CIA and Army folks and what we do. But gosh, we are terrible at marketing ourselves. You guys have done a better job. Why do you think that is?
Well, people don't even know that the largest intelligence budget in the United States is the military. Right? We're the agency was this, and the Pentagon is this, and so, and so there's a lot of you, but you're always off someplace else, and you don't. No one makes one of movies out of you. But there's a quantity there that's not realized, but there's also not, because of that, there's not sort of the mystique. All right, the agency's been around, just since 47, 48, 49. And, military intelligence has been around since the Revolutionary War and before us. And so you gotta get out there. You need a TV show. You need an NCIS. You need one of those types of shows called, Army Intel. And of course, you left Troop, but Army Intel and have something happen. But it's just the way it goes. But one thing about the military guys is, I don't have, and I'm jealous. I don't have the picture of me in camo holding my weapon in boots and sunglasses and the dust and the big bushy beard. I don't got, and they have a lot of those. And I got the most exciting picture I would have would be sitting at my desk on the computer counting my petty cash box. That'd be about as exciting as it gets.
There is that. Yeah. I mean, and look, when you think about a career, whether it's yours, mine, or whatever it is, we all are limited to very small moments where, like, okay, this happened, but how many times we're like, yes, I'll turn my phone in here at the skit. Yes, I'll sign in here. Yes. Standing in front of the camera, waiting for you to open the door. Okay, great. Just like the mundane. My God.
Well,
thumbprinting in. Yes.
Thumbprints. That's high tech from my day. Heck, I still have pictures of me of my badge and my chain, and my MT767. That was me. But everything has its generational time, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm an old duck, and the stuff that people are doing now, the technology, the stuff that's on the movies, which makes my head spin, true or not, that's then,
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'm officially old duck status now, but we used Stu 3. So going secure.
Stu 3s. Can you hear me? Yeah, Stu 3s.
I can't hear you. No.
Full duplex talking over each other. Yeah.
Talking like, did you hear me? No, I couldn't hear you. Okay. You know what? It's raining over here. Oh, that must be okay. You know what? Yeah. We'll try again tomorrow.
We had the Stu 3. God bless them. People don't know what we're talking about.
Oh, I know, but this is the thing, right? There are eras. So when I deployed to Bosnia, it was the beginning of the digital age, like the very dawn. Like, is that the sun coming over the mountains of the dawn? Like, and so the people who were really the Soviet Cold War era guys, when you would show up, and look, I graduated from college in the early 90s, and so I could type fast on a word processor, right? And so when they're like, we have laptops, the old guys are like, I have a pencil. I can type, and they put a cigarette in their mouth. I can type this report out. They could kind of do it, but the keys were different because they were on a keyboard, and they struggled with that. And when I would rip the hard drive out of the side of that thing and be completely comfortable, when I could manipulate things in what was the earliest forms of PowerPoint, when I could take a picture and I could reverse it around and put a beard on someone's face, they were like, "What is this hocus pocus?" And take a picture with the digital camera and print it out in like half an hour, but to them was like, what?
That's like colonization of Mars, that type of technology.
Right. Yeah. So these
Well,
leaps, and now I am that person now. Like, what do you mean you can do all these
yeah,
things?
I was in propaganda ops for a while, and at the transition sort of from analog to digital. Digital had been,
Yeah,
CNN was fresh on the air, and we were using things called VHS.
right.
And so now, people ask me about social media and propaganda. I teach social media and misinformation in college. It's that they can't comprehend that, and you didn't.
Right.
I didn't realize at the time that we were actually pioneering the early uses of digital
Right.
in information distribution, right? It wasn't paper. Now it's like, when did you not do that? And that's the way it should be, right? As I
Yeah.
tell my class, they'll look back at pictures of your grandkids will look back, they'll be sitting at a computer, and they'll go, what's that thing that's in front of you that you're typing on? Well, that's a keyboard. We used to have to,
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
information. What is that? How arcane? That's,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but that's how we were.
You had
back
to
in the
look
80s.
at a screen.
Yeah, can't you
What?
just look at, aren't they under your glasses? I mean, but that's the wonders of it. Back in the mid
Right.
80s, when I was in the 90s, when I was doing my gig, social media was a dream. We were still talking about, boy, can they really get flat panel displays down to the size and cost that we could actually, you lived that dream of hanging them on the wall. And I worked at Motorola. We were coming up with all this mobile stuff and smart. Can we put
Mhm.
Facebook on a phone? That was a big question I got. Facebook account I have right now is a Facebook account I started in 2005 at Motorola Corporate Intel, trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the hell it was to put on a phone. That's 20 years
Yeah.
ago. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not even yesterday in time. But look how things have changed in the practicalities of it.
Yeah, it is amazing. And again, go back to Bosnia. So because I deployed to Bosnia, and you got to remember, like a lot of this stuff is ancient. So some of the
Mhm.
ancient stuff still works. So you take someone who doesn't know how to put a woman in bed with him, and you help him solve that problem, you are still valuable, right? And I
Yeah.
don't mean to
Yep.
be crude, but that is the
No,
thing. Like,
that's
you put tits in front of someone who doesn't know how to put tits in front of themselves, you have made a friend for life, and that is always going to be true. Now you couple that with the fact that you could put into my hand in 1996 a laptop, a scanner, a printer, a phone, a camera, and I put that in a briefcase, a heavy briefcase, but I'm
right.
a strong dude. I
I
can
would call
carry
it
it, and
suitcase, small suitcase, a small Samsonite.
yeah, like a roller suitcase, a roller, right?
Yeah.
But that had ours had a battery and like a rack that would come out, so you could like it was pretty high speed. And because I knew how to manipulate that thing, when I went to Fort Huachuca, which for everybody, it's the Army Spy School.
Yeah.
When I went there as my next assignment, which was dumb luck for the Army that happened. I had gone from running spies in the field to the place where you learn how to do that, to the actual running spy school. They're like, hey, who knows how to work this thing? And I'm like, I just came back from the field using that thing. I know how to use it probably better than everybody in this entire post. And they're like, the general wants to see you. And they're like, so anytime anybody came to post, you're the general's guy who shows everybody how to use this thing. And so it was hilarious. I became this, they had no idea that I knew how to run sources, that I just nobody even cared about that. What they cared was have Pete come and take a picture of the guest of honor. So like when a congressman would come, and to me, this is so dumb. Like this is the dumbest thing, but I didn't understand that this is how you get funding. You grab John McCain, we're in Arizona, you grab John McCain, you're like, here you go, Mr. McCain.
Yeah.
And you give him a picture and he's like, holy shit, because he's from an even, yeah. And so all of this stuff ties together, man. It's crazy how the ancient still works, but you still have to have John McCain see his picture show up on a printer 10 minutes after you take his picture.
Well, 2 topics on that. As I tell my classes, everything's connected. All right? Nothing was built for you. Mobile phones came from these phones, and the fact that you've got sound on your phone came from radio and came from cassette and came from record and video. I mean, everything's connected. So no one made it for you. And the second one is, for me, this is debatable, as I have a history minor, is history cyclical, not linear. So, things that how can we possibly be talking about that again? Because it's come back around the cycle.
Yeah.
Right? And so if it's something that was built or done then, that same need is going to cycle back around, and the solution will have to be made. Right? They knew back in the past. Okay, let's make our solution now. That's what social media is. How do you communicate differently than what we had before?
And another element that we still haven't talked about is because I was that guy going forward, but the people who knew the backwards stuff and the upper echelon stuff. So they'd say, hey, go out in the field, all the new lieutenants. So I'm 27, 28. All these kids are 20, 21. They're coming through college. And they're like, show them how to take a picture. And I'm like, these fools already know this stuff. They don't care about that. But they don't understand what a spy does. And so it's like, where do you go in the order of battle? Like, because they all think, because they're being taught this Eastern Bloc, Western, fight, fold a gap thing. They're like, where do you go? And I'm like, I go in a cafe and I drink hot chocolate with the mayor. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And so I would have to blow their minds on how to put Pete to work, because Army officers have no idea. Even counterintelligence Army officers have no idea what to do with a counterintelligence agent when they show up, because our job is so nebulous, And so and imagine if you're an augmentee, CIA is like, hey, we're going to send you out as an augmentee to an Army unit, you show up, you're going to have to be like, what do you want me to do? They're not going to know it. It's all going to be a mystery. And so my job was to show them, like, this is a laptop. You guys know what this is. Set that aside. Here's what you do with me. And so you still have to teach them the forward look of the capability of Pete or of Joe.
Yeah, well, no offense to them. If you can teach these guys to push the button, right? You can teach a monkey to push the button, but it's how to use it. What do you think about it? And so I was always on the, how can I make you understand, realize the themes or topics or processes or what this other person's thinking,
right?
To get to the next step, to provide our foreign policymakers to make informed decisions about the United States of America. I mean, that's sort of the goal of the whole thing. You raise your hand to do that. And one of those things we talk about, counter intel. I used to, I don't know if you used the nothingness culture. It's, hey, nothing happened yesterday, nothing happened today, nothing's going to happen tomorrow. Right. And which isn't true necessarily. Maybe true today, not be true tomorrow. That's a whole think, right? And you can show them the gizmos. Gizmos are cool. Give me a thing. Tell me how. Show me something. Give me whatever. I'm Spielberg. Let's make a movie. Yeah, it's cool. I had that so many times. But to make them ask them the questions. Why do you want to do this? What's the point? Then that tech thing comes to a grinding halt. And then you start getting to things that might be a little bit more useful than just knowing or making. It's what you want to do. That was a battle I fought for a long time.
Boy, the battles. I know on the Army side, it's very hard to develop yourself. In the counterintelligence world, it's very hard to develop yourself into what you're going to be, because you move jobs so fast and you're moving up in the ranks so quickly that you don't develop competence. You're just moving too much. And so to understand what you're good at and to develop mastery, and then mastery of your mastery, it just doesn't happen. And so you're just constantly adapting it. You develop mastery of an adaptation. And so it's how do you develop good people? I don't know how that works in the CIA, and the Army is also terrible at keeping good people. They don't go, hey, Pete is really fucking fantastic. Let's keep him. Let's invest time and money in him, right? That they just don't give a shit, apparently. And so we
a lot of
good people go all the time. How was the CIA for that kind of thing?
Well, I left. I don't know the military. I mean, I worked with you guys, but you're hired to do something. I mean, you normally have an expertise, all right. And even if the expertise is we're going to train you to be a CT, in the field spy. We know we can do that. I got hired because I have a media degree. I had a TV degree. I was in the 80s. TV was becoming source. Some of us thought it was becoming something. The people at the paper didn't, but we showed them differently. So that was my expertise. Then they wanted me to, get into the field. So I did what I needed to do, or ask U.S. citizens what they did. So that whole sort of field thing. But you have the core competencies, right? And like I said, you can train a monkey to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But no offense to monkeys. But if you have the core competencies of communicating, thinking, critical thinking, and the various kinds of communication skills, writing, talking, presenting, maybe negotiation skills, things that you have to do this. There's functional aptitudes. Yes, I know how to push a button and I can talk and I can, write a report. But the core competencies of being able to write, to be able to communicate, to be able to do those things, That's what I think separates those who are moving around and want to do something else. You are capable of doing that. Some people
Yeah.
aren't capable of doing that because they don't have those competencies fully developed or at all to move to that next step. That was what the agency was really good at. Retaining. I left. It was a family thing, and you know, when I left, it was like I had just pretty much, people couldn't fathom it. Leave. I'm like, yeah. I mean, now it's like common. Now it's just a resume thing. Come in for 18 months or a couple of years, get that on your resume and blow out and write a book. But there's, I'm not downplaying. People who are there now are working really hard. We don't know who they are. They're doing their thing. But I'm going to believe it's a little bit more of a revolving door, because when I left, it was hard to get out. Hard. I had to work on it. And of course, you didn't want to, but I had skills I could use someplace else, so I did.
Yeah, that's interesting. The development process in the Army is they struggle, because if you stand out too much and they don't know what to do with you, right? Because it's not a special place, but there are special people in that place, and so it's a careerist place, and there's a lot of mediocrity in the Army, and so you have folks that they don't know what to do with you if you're too fast, if you're too strong, if you're too hey, I need to do something. They don't, if there's nothing to do, they're like, we don't know what to do with you. You want things to do, or we don't know where to put you. And so people who are like that, like, I'm pretty motivated. Like, the leader would be like, hey, we want Pete in my section. He's motivated. And then they would pass me around section to section. And there are a lot of guys like me who are like, hey, I'm prepared to do things. Put me to work. And they're like, why don't you go cut these hedges? Why don't you go read these books? And so you got moved around, and you're like, oh, I see. There's nothing for me to do here. I'm going to go find myself something to do. And so you find yourself, and then you end up finding yourself out because no one knows how to develop you. And that is what happens to a lot of the people that I know that got out. They just simply couldn't get into a situation where someone could say, I know how to put this kid to work and lead them. It was hard to find a leader who could house people. It was hard to find. You couldn't get yourself into a program because no one knew how to marshal people who were trying to be better and get them into a place where, like, let's get you into this skills program. Let's get you into this skills program and develop and put people in places. They just didn't have that development piece figured out. And they just couldn't put people to work. It's kind of my theory. I don't know.
Well, the response to that is find a mentor. All right. I got lucky to have 3 excellent mentors, and one actually said, "No, get on the horse and find somebody, get on the horse and ride them." All right. You need somebody to help you. All right. So get a mentor.
Yeah.
And realize you need a mentor, because the reality of the world is you're in a huge bureaucracy. You're in a world built upon, supported by hierarchy, people who are better than you is because they've been there 2 years longer than you have. Not that they're actually better. Yeah. They have a higher GS level, and they've been there for 2 years. Therefore, they're smarter, better, and more capable, which is false. And that's everywhere. That's not just everywhere. Realizing that the skill is realizing you're in that, and either get frustrated and blow out, or you say, here's my path. What's the best way to get there? I need a mentor. I need to go here. How do I get there? Yeah. And that's what I did all the way through.
Yeah.
It's allergy season.
It's funny.
Rubbed my nose.
I went to I went to Huachuca, which is the spy school for the Army, at least at the time. And I got ready to, in my time, my first enlistment was coming up. And I was pliable, like I probably was going to get out, but they didn't even do the required, like, hey, Pete, we'd like you to stay. They didn't even do that. And not because of me. Everybody was just too busy, and they just didn't do it. And so, they met the legal minimum requirement. So no one got into trouble. But like, as I'm walking out the door, they're like, oh, hey, Pete. And so they called my office. They talked to my boss, and he's like, yeah, he's here. He's in his 30-day window to get out. You're too late. And then my boss hung up on him. Oh. And so it's like, as you said, like, this is a really specific field. It should be hard to get out. And we're hanging up on people because they've called too late. Anyhow, so this isn't about me. But
people are flawed, right? And systems are flawed. They're made by people. That's the hard reality, because you want to do something. You want to make a difference. Let's go, go, go. I've seen the movies. I'm James Bond, or I'm Q, or whatever it might be. you are a drone bee in a big hive of lots of people that together get things done. But you got your thing to do, and that one of the good things was there always was somebody doing it. It was just amazing. So I didn't know something about purple aliens and Greek front Soviet groups and go, I'll go talk to Bernie. He's down the hall in that. There's somebody that's just quality people from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Some of them were, I was in the post-Vietnam era, so there's a lot of those guys.
Right. The funny thing is though, is I do find my way to where I was great at being with the Army as opposed to being in the Army. So I was in the Army 3 different ways, but when I was with the Army and I was free to move about and I could control my own mission, look out, I was able to figure it out. And so that was my path. And I was able to really develop my mastery within that. So I guess my question to you is when you figured out what you were great at, it sounds like you were outside of the CIA when you did that. By the way, I have a TV radio degree as well. That's interesting.
There you go. Broadcasting and film division.
And I recognize
one of those
back there. Yeah. I recognize that my classes in TV radio reporting, and I'm like, oh my God, my degree applies to what I do every day, right? And because I'd go into the field, I'd find a story, I'd write a report, and then I'd broadcast it.
Yeah. Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
I made videos, propaganda videos, and wrote stuff and got to be crazy thinking about how can we, Ronald Reagan says, tear down that wall. What do we do? All right, great. Thanks, Ron. And let's light it up for a year. But that was fun.
When did you figure out what it was that you were great at though? Like when did you go, oh, this is me in this version of this world. Like this is why I'm here in this. And why was that?
Well, are we still searching for that? And that's sort of the reason of life where you go from government to corporate to consulting to education and writing. It's sort of like I'm hunting for the true me. But I go back to my comment on what makes somebody tick. What's the theme within you type of thing. And I always knew from the point of view of core competency, I got things done.
Yeah.
Ask Joe gets it done. All right.
Yeah.
So if you wanted that video, you wanted that thing moved, you wanted to, I get it done. On top of that what fueled that was the belief in insatiable curiosity. I've always been very curious. So someone asks you a question or someone mentions a book that you gotta read it, understand, you gotta know more about it. So I tell my classes, if you gotta be insatiably curious about a topic or an issue to get better. And by the way, and two, show others why you should be picked for the job rather than them. All right. You want a job. You're in college for a job. All right. Then that's about it. All right. Career. Take your pick, which is why should they pick you over somebody else? Well, you got to show those things. And that's what I did in the agency. I always got myself in front of people who could make a difference. And that's when I acquired the mentors. And that was almost from within the first 6 months. I figured I can't sit here. I'll just become a drone and they'll dust me off. I need to get out into the offices, show people I exist, that I have value for them. 1 year after I got hired in the DI, I was hired into the DO during a hiring freeze.
Yeah.
They knew I existed. I showed them my value, and that changed my career forever.
I think you're already answering this, but I want to have you dig a little deeper. Were you, because there's 2 primary things that you are in our field is you're a person who responds to the need, or you're the person who says, this is what I do, and it will respond to your need. Yeah. So like, are you self-directing? And look, there's variations of these things too, but I know for me, like I go to the commander and I say, here's what I am, here's what I do, here's what's going to happen in the future, to include you saying these words to me, and I'll predict the future for you, right? That's what I do. And then I go out and I deliver, and they're like, holy shit, Pete. Holy shit. You said you were going to do it. You did it. You said I was going to say these words to you, and you said it would happen. God damn it. All right. And then now they have fully bought in, right? Because I knew my system. So are you that kind of person who like knows what you're going to do, or do you adapt to what they need from within?
Well, I think one of the keys of the agency was the ability to do both those, to be able to work independently and as a group, to be able to self-motivate and to do when you're tasked to do something. I think that flexibility gives you
Mm.
value. And if you're shown that you can't do that, then you're going to be not moving in that
Yeah.
direction, or
Yeah. Fair enough.
something else there'll be a result from that. But you know,
Right.
as I get older in the different phases of my life, I am stronger at certain things, or I want to do certain
Mm.
things. I don't want to be stressed out in the anxiety of certain things. Back
Yeah.
then, it was, inoculate me, give me an injection of intelligence, espionage, and I got the high, and I'm doing my thing, and then it wears off, and then they say, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
Pump Joe again." Up you go, and it's a drug, it's narcotic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you need to be able to perform on that cycle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to self-motivate at times, or they stick you full of needle and say, "Go," metaphorically, go, go, go. And I think those who
Yeah.
can't do that, it's going to be more frustrating. And it
You
is
have to
frustrating, even if you can do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to go check out Joe's books in general on Amazon. I'm going to put the link up here in the remarks. This is the whole reason why we're here was to talk about Joe's work here. So, yeah, let's talk about Joe.
I saw the list of people you've had on this show. It's going to be everybody else, and then there's going to be me. It's like,
that's right.
You're these great people. You got Einstein and
Einstein.
You got all these smart, super people who have made a difference in the world. Then there's Goldberg, right? I can talk.
Joe Goldberg.
Joe Goldberg.
Yeah.
Podcast. Right.
Devil's Own Day. That's the third book. Look, there's a whole series of books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe writes that. There's another earlier book, but just get into, if you like spy novels, obviously he's a spy, got credentials, talks about it. You can go get into that. There's another earlier single edition of a novel, so you can get that as well. But that or you can go to his website, and I'll put the link up for that right now as well. But this is why we do these things. And you know what I always say, buddy read, buy one for you, buy one for a friend.
That's right.
Dig in and
pay it forward. Pay it forward.
That's right. Pay it forward.
Well, if you want to read about my life in the agency, it's the first book. That's semi-autobiographical it got redacted. Yay! It got the stuff the CIA did not want you to read. That type of marketing.
Right?
Stuff.
Yeah.
But about 60 to 70% of it is just verbatim my day, my life about propaganda ops back in the day of Gaddafi and that whole gang. State-sponsored terror. So that is at its time was considered a pretty good espionage book. Now all those guys have come out and they're writing great books, and so I have this sort of fanciful spy novels thing, which may be true, maybe not. Since the lead character writes the forward.
I will say in general, and people should hear this. I'm hard on the CIA in general, and we should be hard on our federal agencies because they belong to us, and we should be like, hey, you guys got to do a better job. The CIA overall, I would say, is fantastic about saying, yeah, you can release that. Like they don't they don't take the redacting pen out and blast books to him.
Right.
It's they're very permissive, even if it makes them look bad. Like they, by and large, are pretty open.
Yeah, I've had 4 books go through publications review, and they've been extremely responsive, have met every timeline, and have redacted stuff out, I think, 2 out of 4. And the story is, I actually put some stuff in the last book, thinking actually that they would take it out, going, then I can do the stuff the CIA don't want you to write, that thing.
Right. Yeah.
No problem.
Nope.
Shot right through. I'm like, what the heck? What? I can't even talk about this, and you're leaving it in. So, okay, great. Yeah. So much for secrecy agreements. Have a nice day.
Yeah. It is remarkable, and I don't think folks understand that. There are areas to critique the CIA, but they are very open on books. It's remarkable. Yeah.
They got better. Well, the whole Argo really getting involved in there was always that guy who used to go out to Hollywood, do main thing, but that really sort of opened things up. The Americans, so all these former big agency guys who went off into Hollywood, that let it go, and then the book started rolling. A lot of them. Let's put it this way: those who are listening, former agency people or government people, you want to write fiction, no problem. You want to write the nonfiction book, sit back and relax, because that's when they're going to go line by line, because you are specifically saying this is not fiction, this is real. In fiction, this isn't true. Any resemblance to anyone living or dead is purely coincidental and a figment of the author's imagination. Yeah. Okay, fine, good enough.
Yeah.
Right. Fiction wins.
Yeah. There's also something to be said about the CIA saying, yeah, that's real good. Man, that's scary. I'd be scared of us. If I
Yeah.
was the enemy, oh boy, I'd be like, damn, the CIA's everywhere. There's something to be said for that as an information operation to let these kind of things go out. It's just like letting people know about submarines and how incredible submarines are. If you don't have one that good and you're the enemy, oh boy, you're like, damn, we are way behind.
Yeah. Well, you got to believe that our true real enemies have a pretty good idea of what we're capable of, what we're really doing. And yeah, is it good for PR to let people think that or support the actual truth that these capabilities exist, that you could drone somebody from this place and you can zero in on the license plate, whatever the heck it might be? Yeah, it may exist, it doesn't exist. Who cares if it's in the fictionalized world, right? Let's help that out.
Yeah.
So I got a love of Hollywood and TV. In fact, Spy Devils is in the TV treatment process right now.
Oh, good.
We'll see how it goes. It's a slow process, but there's always hope. And because everybody kept saying, "Hey, this is built for TV miniseries," and that's the way my mind works. All my books have been written in sort of
sure
style.
Yeah,
that's how we all
it
think.
is.
I think
That's how these stories work, and you do want them to happen, and then you see some of the stuff they pick, and you're like, why? You know, why? Why?
I mean, I'll tell you the quick story. This drives me nuts. I say this everywhere I go, and they call it "jump the shark writing," jump the shark crap.
Yeah,
it's the third Bourne movie, and everybody loves the Bourne movies. Okay, good, fine, great, fans. When the guy goes to his safe, and the guy gets blown up. And the only thing that doesn't burn is the piece of scrap of paper in his briefcase that has on its cover the agency symbol. And by the way, the true address of the super secret substation of the agency in New York City, in which if that didn't not burn, if they didn't do stupid things like put the true address and the symbol, the Bourne movie ends. All right. And I'm like, I actually sat forward in the movie theater and groaning, and my wife's patting my back because only you know. So that's just lazy. But you have to have that. You got to jump that shark. But you didn't really. Right?
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that cliche crap.
If I won the lottery, I would make a real spy movie, and just show some of like the craziness. Like, I've done surveillance. It's really fucking hard if you do the kind of surveillance when no one knows you're there. So we did some, and we had some people from the eastern part of if you go west from California, away really far across the water, and there's a country over there that we might do some surveillance on. And they get off. Yeah, there you go. They get off the airplane. And there's a whole lot of us. We've all got distinct cars. So, we've all got cars that we aren't driving every day to swap cars. We're all going to change outfits and everything. It's really like we're trying not to be seen. The first thing we do, so we pick the person up. We're changing people all the time, right? Very, very professional surveillance. No one is trying to screw up. Everybody is good at their job. We pick up, my partner and I, we pick up the car as it leaves the airport. And as we do that, like, okay, it's our job, and everybody's excited. Everybody's good. We all got radios. And as we pick it up, there's a rise between us and the car because you want to leave a gap. Okay, cool. No problem. We come up, there are two identical cars, not by design, just by luck. And we're like, well, we have two white cars. And they're like, nobody's going to be here in time to pick up the other white car. Choose one. Well,
life in the field.
You chose the wrong one.
The
one.
That's
so
that's the initiative.
We lost them.
Yeah, that's life. Remember, if in intelligence, if you're successful 1 out of 10 times, you're a success, right? Especially recruiting. But you make the decision. You do the best you can.
And this is hilarious. Later on, and the thing is the way all of our brains work. It's like that was an op. I'm like, no, that's just luck. And then later on, the guy's driving. And he's in the left lane, and he goes across 2 lanes to go get gas at the gas station. And so the car that's there has to decide, like, am I gonna, like, is that's counter surveillance being done? And so they drive past because that's what you do. And then the next car comes and gently pulls into the station, and now they've got to go. And that car now, this is for everybody watching. Yeah, I know you know this. That car now has to scrub that entire gas station area to see if something's been dropped.
Right.
They're done for the day. We won't see them the rest of the day.
Yep. Look for the mark.
All the guy did was get gas. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. And then how you write that one up? You just let it go.
Yeah.
Lost it.
Yeah. And then you have to justify now why you're touching every Hostess donut pack and every goddamn thing.
You're still you survived. They didn't put you in front of a firing squad, right? You're still here.
Yeah. Anyhow, so the whole it's just it's crazy. Anyhow, yeah, it's just
those are the things that keep. But those moments make you who you are today, right? Because that was on the fly thinking. It's screwed up. It sucked. It didn't work. Where do you go from there? You're going to get burned by your superiors. Does it really make that big of a difference? Yeah. And that's learning experience. You had that in the agency. You have it when it's a little bit more. I don't say life or death. A little bit more.
Yeah. Right.
Whatever spectrum of importance it is, maybe this is more important than worry about what's on the menu at another place. So you try not to, and they try to have people who don't have not to. But I thought the agency people I dealt with were pretty forgiving on things that just it just doesn't work.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't work. Sometimes doesn't. Like I say, 9 out of 10 times you try to recruit somebody, it's a fail. The one time makes you a star. It's like baseball.
Yeah. And just it's just the job can be exceptionally hard, and you forget that sometimes. And sometimes normal behavior looks like, what are they doing? And you're like, well, they're just walking around the hotel. They've never been here. They're enjoying themselves. You want it to be something, but just dudes enjoying their business trip and having some extra fun. Whatever you just, and you're looking for something to be something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just nothing.
The hard part wasn't doing it. That's the fun part. The hard part is the downtime, the mental. It's a hard life.
Yeah.
It takes, especially if you got a family, you're young, you have goals and dreams and things. It requires mental fortitude. And I cracked a little bit at some points, you got to. It's so dark humor, mashisms. And when I got out, I remember I was sitting around and I kept saying, boy, now I can join the why of my kids. And my wife was, that's the first thing you've been saying nonstop. I can join the community. You can get out. You don't have this Vaseline-ish coat of being inside around you all the time. And that can wear you down. Some are more mentally strong than others. I was just building a career. If I knew I was going to be in forever, it would have been okay. But I didn't know exactly.
There is that thing where internally that you are burning some part of you at some rate that is unsustainable.
Yep.
And you don't, like, everybody's tough until the second you're not, because that you've burned that bit of tungsten that makes you tough. And you're like, oh, that guy needs a break. And everybody can see it except for the person,
Yep. Got to accept it. You gotta, silence is golden, right? So sometimes you just got to step back and bring that into your life. And when you realize you're moving 15 hours a day, every day. And in my line of work, which is pretty much propaganda ops, I had absolutely no ability to know if what I was doing had any value whatsoever. Right?
It's so tough.
It goes out, and then you go on to the next thing. Maybe because you get a couple of those reward things. There's like 3 or 4 around here. Someone will say, "Hey, good job." I did get one that said, that project you did, that saved lives.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Besides that, nothing. And if you're looking for bonuses or pat on the backs, I did get a lot of letters, of commendation from various people, organizations you help, because I was the guy who got things done, right? So if you really need to have that sort of self or gratification from someplace else, reinforcement, that's gonna be tough because it burns you down. And it's not on purpose. It's just that life. Some of it's it's exciting, and it's that cycle, right? Like anything in life, just that some things have more spectrum of importance.
How does that fit into that whole thing? The Vaseline coat, the the lack of, because it's easy just to take, hey, this guy gives great reports, but no one has time to say, hey, Pete, great reports, keep them coming. Or because you also don't want to say it. You don't want to influence what Pete's doing. You don't want to change anything, right? Just leave
No,
him
I
alone.
would think good report. When you're going through training, you got to be a reports officer for a while, whatever they call them now. And so you'd say, hey, good report. I still remember, even now, it was decades and decades and decades later, when I got that great comment on something, it just flashes in my brain, that memory flash, and you go, wow, that stuck because you got some of that reinforcement. Because it's kind of rare, especially nowadays, when someone says "atta boy," "atta person," right? So, thank you is a tough thing. Now it's just I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. Have a nice day. So pay it forward, especially in the writing. It's fun about writers; they do that.
That reminds me. I had a source in Bosnia. A couple of guys who were in civilian clothes came up and started asking me about my source. And these are CIA guys. And the one guy said, we may take your source. And the thing you should know is this is a good thing. It sucks for you, but it means you're doing a good job. Every time we show up and take one of your sources, it's going to suck for you, but it means you're doing a good job. So keep doing it. Every time this happens, you need to know you're doing it. He said it to me 3 times, and I'm like, okay. And I'm just too young to even dumb. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing my job.
Kudos to that guy.
Later on, because he did not have to say that, right? But he made a point of telling me, and it didn't even occur to me that it sucked. And then, like 5 years later, I'm like, oh shit! Then I got it, and then so I made sure I told anybody afterwards. I don't even know if he knew that this would be the value. I let other guys know when they said that, and I'm like, you understand that this means someone read your work and said, this is good work, and we can do more with this source than this Army guy can. And so we're going to go use this source for bigger things. Like, this is good. You did something. Someone should have given you a medal, is what should have happened. Someone let you down, but move on.
The world of stock options, right? You get a promotion, you get stock options, you get an office corner. I was in corporate for 16 years. That happened. That's the way that it works. But that means
that was the dividend that guy paid. He got that CIA guy he allowed me to pay dividends to other people, because what they should tell us is like, hey, when these things happen, because no one had ever explained this to us, like, this is what happens, and when it does, it's a good thing. You're helping the system. It's this is you serving your country at a higher level, at a dude, at a chick. Way to go! Keep that up.
Take those moments, because they're and this is just life. Hell, whoever's watching probably the same life experiences that we can compare. But those I went on a thank you tour several years ago when I was looking back saying, who are the 5 or so people in my life who made a difference then, and I didn't know.
This is neat,
and I didn't know it until now when I realized, you know what, I think about that person every day, or they made. And so I went and shook their hand, looked them in the eye, said, thank you. You don't know the value you've had on me, and I didn't realize it then. So I'm going to say thank you now for what you did, and that's it's meant a lot to me, but certainly meant much more to them. And I recommend that. Keep the list of those people.
Keep the list.
The road.
No, I'm going to go. I do want to go back. So when you're writing your characters, how much of that is in there? How much of that cost? How much of that pain is in there? Because I know, like, when I explain like my day, when I'm going to go on patrol prep, patrol rest, patrol report, after meetings, making sure people are reading the report. I mean, all the stuff I've got to do, oftentimes a 30-hour day, and I'm not lying. Like, it's a 30-hour day sometimes. And I'm like, okay, now today begins, but today really began 4 hours ago, and it's just like exhausting, and it's, you're hurting yourself.
Yeah. Well, that was really the theme of the first book, really, because it was the Inside the Walls book. More real. And the dedication of the book is to my family. And then it says, and to the patriots, you know who you are. Right? And that comes from actually a segment inside the book, which is an actual event in my life in which we're talking, I'm at a class and this person's talking and they said they were sort of outside. They were a knock. And they're like, not official cover. And they goes, I want you guys to remember that you're the patriots. And no one knows. I'm nothing. That you're the ones. And then when I first got there, just to circle the story back to the beginning, is Tom Clancy came to speak inside the bubble of the agency.
Nice.
And so I was watching him on circuit TV and or maybe actually video afterwards. And he goes, as long as I write, you guys will be the heroes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if and he meant it. And because it's easier to say, oh, they kill babies and they've done all these horrible things. Yeah, they did horrible things. And they're still, I don't know if they're doing horrible things or not. But they're people. And they to be called a hero or a patriot at that moment, that's a good moment. Because even in your own life, it's like your kids saying, hey, I love you. Hey, you know my name? Right? That's kind of that moment that you remember. I know that makes sense.
Yeah. I read a couple of really good books. One of them is by a lady named Halleck Kochansky. Another guy is an author they're both from England. One is I can't remember Gill's last name, but he wrote about all of Winston Churchill's like insane bombing madmen. Like they invented all these the sticky bomb. He invented all these things, and they just came up with all these odd ways to undermine the success of all the World War II enemies. And Halleck wrote about all of the resistance movements. And when the British people would parachute into, and we'll just use, the continent of Europe, for example, but this is all over the fight, and when they did things like blow up the one side of the rail track to stop the Germans, or even just to slow them down, the Germans would then go to the one village back where the operation happened, and then they would annihilate 500 people, Yeah. And so, these are the things that happened. And this is the work that like the CIA does, and it does get innocent people killed. And the idea is that we are trying to prevent the greater harm. And we know that it's risky. And sometimes there are stars on the wall because these people do lose their lives in the battle. And it is amazingly hard and dangerous work. And we also make our own personal mistakes. We are like, we put this person in an extremely risky job. It takes a certain kind of person that doesn't always make the right decision to go do this work quite often.
It's the mental.
Yeah.
It's like you were describing a Ben McIntyre book. Is that like Operation Mincemeat and all that sort of stuff?
Right. Yeah.
Any of his books on espionage of World War II are great. The famous Mincemeat, which is made into a movie, because that was Ian Fleming, that was Graham Greene, that was all these guys who became spy authors sitting around Committee 20 saying, "Let's screw up the Germans. What can we do?" And they some great books on that. Very hilarious.
Oh my gosh. I'm reading one now by an Australian author about his uncle called Unsung Hero, and he was an Australian kid. And he's like, I'm going to go learn French in Paris, and then just never left Europe, and then got kind of absorbed into the resistance movement. And it was one of those guys that never came back, and he gets killed by the Nazis and everything. But it's amazing, what he does, and just had a knack for it, had a knack for language, and you never would have guessed it in 1936. This guy would end up going and doing all these amazing things, but he goes out and does all this. He's resistance, but he's also in the espionage world, not 100%, but he's in that world where you take these enormous risks. And one of the things he does is for the audience, he does a thing called a bona fides, right? And so he's walking down the road towards two Aussie pilots that he's working on rendezvousing to get them out of. So the pilots had crashed, and so he's going to get them out of theater. That's one of his jobs. And so they're walking towards each other, and he says something that only two Aussies like, wouldn't a day at Bondi Beach be nice? And those words can't happen in whatever Flanders or wherever they are. And so that's the code to let them know they're safe. And so they're able to rendezvous with these guys and get them out of there, And so shortly after that, he gets captured he gets betrayed by another spy, by another British spy going the other direction. But it's just amazing, all of these things. So when we talk about killing babies and everything, it's all high risk. It's all a form of war. And in war, it's just not gentle, and things happen.
Yeah, which is why, to be honest, I'm tiring of the genre of living inside the espionage world, whether through almost all my career since the early mid 80s. And through writing 4 espionage books, I'm like, you know what? Time for Joe to grow, to do something different, or time to think differently. everybody's writing espionage books. I think it's sort of a dead genre in fiction, unless they're bang bang shoot 'em ups, which is, I don't know if I wouldn't call those espionage. I call those military thrillers. I don't think John le Carré would get published nowadays. I don't think his books are. Nothing happens. It's all the mental aspects of how to be in a spy. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is, I think, the best one ever written. I don't know how we get it published. So that's why I'm just sort of saying, okay, has my espionage fuse, my Mission Impossible fuse sort of burned? Something to do different, which I am sort of moving out. I am actually not sort of. I am moving away from espionage, and it's been really. I've been writing this book now I started researching in December, and I've been writing for the past 3 weeks. I'm almost a third of the way through because I've just been going nuts, and because it's just different. All right, I don't know if I can pull it off, but boy, it's so nice not having to worry about narco terrorists, nuclear things, and that cliche, easy, lazy writing stuff. Not that they aren't big issues. Biotech, biochem, biowar. Those are big issues, and everybody knows it. Everybody's writing about it, and it just becomes boring for me. I almost can't read in the genre anymore because it's like, oh, here we go again. Yeah.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think there's something to that. Well, first off, I can't stand the nerdy puzzle solver character in the spy world. I just to me, it's so tropey. And I got one. I got the young high tech kid who can do everything. You got to have you got to answer questions somehow, and you got to have that capability, right? Yeah. I like the spy who can punch someone in the mouth and do, because that's kind of the guy I am.
That's my guy.
I'm like, punch him in that, like do shots, and it's like, let's go on patrol and like figure shit out. Like that's the kind of guy I'm like.
That's my guy. They're figuring out as they go along. Yeah.
David Levin, do you know about this guy's book and what he did? He is not a spy, but he is a brother, and he does. I'm going to put a link up to his episode. I had him on the show. He's a real dude, and he is connected in a way where his friend's son goes missing in Syria back when Syria was really hot, and he's like, "Can you help me find my son?" And he's like, "I speak Arabic. I know sheikhs," and he has a superpower, and it's just kind of weird. He can smell emotions. This is his story, so I'm letting him tell the truth. And so he goes out and he collects, and he is the milkest, mildest. Like, it drives me crazy, his approach. I'm like, why don't you just get bold, But it's his judo, so he's got to do it his way.
Right.
But it's a remarkable story, and it has nothing to do with combat. Everything with trying to solve this. So he's kind of a reporter, kind of a, but he's absolutely doing collection. And he solves the mystery of what happens to this kid. And so there's the episode there if you're all interested. I can send you a link to the book offline, but it's along the same lines where I'm like, and it actually happens. It's a real story.
Right, it's a real story. Well, that's not. I can't.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. Is like there's other ways to put that skill set to work where like the investigative reporter or whatever it's going to be, where it can be a little more interesting, and it is a little less, because I'm with you. Like there's only so many. I love a good Clancy-esque kind of read and that kind of thing, but there are only so many of them that I can get into. I can't read all of them, and it does. Look, I don't do superhero movies anymore because I'm like, oh no. Oh, all hope is lost. What'll happen in the next scene?
Yeah, I stopped those a while ago, but the need for fresh ideas and new. Then there's versus the let's just have this. There are some great characters. I mean, Mitch Rapp, great character, and Mark's great Court Gentry and the Gray Man, and these characters are developed. People have an entertainment and emotional attachment to these characters, and Mark Graney and Jack Ryan, Clancy Brooks. That's Mark Cameron's writing those now. I mean, those are great writers, and they know Don Bentley's doing the Mitch Rapp stuff. So these are all great writers who are picking up a series with characters that are developed, but they will give them. I've actually talked to them, interviewed them. They give them their input. They change. They can only change it so much, right? Because there's a whole world that loves that character, and you can't. What do you mean he's got? He had doesn't like golfing anymore. He loves to golf, right? But they put their spin on it, and that spin keeps it refreshing, keeps those characters alive. And then
Yeah.
like the characters will never age, right? Their whole world happens the exact, they're always the same age. It's not like there's like in
Yeah.
a lot of books where it's
I
actually
am excited to read this Hunt for Red October sequel that
the new one,
Andrews and Wilson did.
Anders
Though.
and
Yeah.
Wilson's book. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
reviews have been great. Ryan put out a good review on the Real Book Spy, and
I can't wait. Yeah. I'm excited.
Reading takes me away from writing. So I actually went to audiobooks. I went to the dark side.
Oh, me too. Me too. Yeah.
I just when I wanted to learn about classic espionage, I had to read more. And I don't have the time. But when I'm driving with the grandkids or sitting in bed, I can listen. And I say this almost every interview. When I'm reading, and we're humans, our eyes skip, right? We read in chunks.
Yeah.
I forget the bunnies and the butterflies. I want to see the shooting and the blood. So I'll skip over that moonshine thing, get down to the blood thing. But when you're listening to it, you can't. You have to hear how the author was putting this together and why they may have put it there that way. And you can go back and listen. I can go back. And I learned a lot from just burning through 100, 200 classic books of all genres, all times.
And what speed are you listening at?
Depends upon the speed of the narrator. If this narrator is a good old solid narrator, I might crank into 1.2, sometimes 1.5. If it's or if the book I find it's a good book, but it's not what I want to spend all 9 hours listening to. So I'll crank it up to 1.5 and more. So I'm hearing it and I'm saying, this is, I want to, because once I start something, I got to finish it. I just can't start a book and drop it.
That's the rules.
And what I do is I use for my own stuff, I use Speechify, which is it'll read your stuff back. You just put the PDF file. You can have Snoop Dogg do it. You can have hundreds of different
Speechify, everybody.
Speechify. And so I put my drafts in there, and I can pull my draft up, and here's somebody else reading my book back to me at a little bit faster speed, so I'm not saying it forever. And I can hear the mistakes or the things type of real mistakes and thought process mistakes as I'm reading it. So if I don't have Speechify, I'm on my phone, I have it on my computer, and I'll start Speechifying the next book here pretty soon as I go along.
Yeah. I listen by the norm is I listen at least at 2.2 to 2.7.
I can't keep up.
I cook.
I
can't. But certain books I'll slow down, and like Bono's book Surrender, that's at one speed because he's performing in the book. But most books, it's going to be lickety split.
Well, it depends if I'm reading it to be entertained or just know how the story works. I'm reading them for construction too. For what tense they use.
Yeah.
How much do they flash back? Where they started, how they end the chapter. So I can't fly by them. I need to hear them.
No. If I'm being a mechanic, it's slower. It's never one time because I can listen pretty fast. But if I'm getting through a book to hear the whole story and I'm paying attention, I'm up in the twos.
Yep. Yeah. Wow.
I want to wrap this up with you because I don't want to have any more of your time than the hour. But do you want to ask me anything before we wrap up?
This is a question I wasn't prepared for, so I need to come up with an answer on that because I just got off my own podcast. I'm a co-host for House of Mystery of Alan Warren. It's an author podcast. Well, I'll ask the easy question. Why podcasting? Why you do what you're doing right now at this moment?
Still, right after 10 years and
2,000
episodes.
That means it's not new. You've stuck with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, first off, it's completely revamped my life and in a great way. It enriches my life, and I get to meet you. Right. And when I go to Chicago, so I'm gonna come visit my friend Dennis in Chicago. I'm gonna look you up.
Look me up. I got smokers, got brisket ready to go.
Yeah, the world is a better place because of stuff like that right there, right? Yeah. And so why would I turn that off? It's an opportunity machine beyond that. I get to meet people in other countries like Halleck and Gills, and I get to know these people. I was able to link those two together. They both belong to the National London Library, and I'm like, how do you guys not know each other? They're like, we're both going to the Christmas party together. Who knew? And so all these amazing things happen, and I get to shepherd people together and create opportunity. And I love it. And then, so I just have built this amazing thing, and I'm like, why would I turn it off? And so I worry less about all the things people worry about because it's a wonderful experience. I get to have all the time incredible conversations like the one we just had,
That's a good answer. That's why I do.
It just enriches I know if it enriches my life, it enriches other people's lives. And I just want to continue to be valuable to people, because if you do that, valuable things happen.
Show value, right? Do
Yeah,
your best and
yeah.
forget the rest, as they would say.
That's right. Anything in closing before I wrap this thing up?
No, if you want to listen to another podcast, hit up the House of Mystery of Al Warren. I mean, we interview authors specifically of all genres. Like I've done James Patterson to, I don't know. I'm doing crime people now because I'm getting more into crime, and I'm going to go to left coast crime. So it's a nice variety. And that I'm as I'm getting older, variety is good.
Yeah,
it's easy to sit there and do the thing.
Have you had Dale Julin on? The guy Dale Julin, the guy that just released his Zodiac Killer book. He basically figured out Zodiac Killer.
There are other series of authors who would do the true crime. In fact, there's some guys who are Zodiac. In fact, my first interview was with like Butterfield and those guys, the Zodiac guys. So I'm sure that they did them. I'm the thriller more than anything, the thriller author. I need a little bit more right now. True crime.
Yeah. All right, well, let me run the credits here, and I'll come back to you and say goodbye officially. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much.